Today, first of all, my name is Daryl Chase. I'm from the Glen Acres Church of Christ, and I'm one of the leaders here. And today I want to talk about the suffering of Jesus. Jesus endured physical, he endured emotional, and spiritual suffering to bear the sins of humanity and God's redemptive plan to be able to fulfill it. Now I want to talk about a little bit about each one of these. Physical suffering. What did he endure there? Well, Jesus' physical suffering was extreme. Beginning in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he experienced intense anguish, sweating of blood due to a rare condition caused by extreme stress. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7. He was then betrayed. Someone he loved betrayed him. He was arrested, and he was subjected to 6 illegal trials, during which he was mocked, he was beaten, and tortured repeatedly. And his crucifixion involved severe scourging, carrying the cross, and being nailed to it. Now, he wasn't even able to carry the cross to the place where they were going to put him on the cross and actually have him be in a situation where he could be watched. He just couldn't carry it that far. So they got somebody else to do that job. But just to think about all that he was going through, God's Son, going through such a anguish that he didn't deserve to pay the price that we need to pay. But he knew, God knew, we couldn't pay it. And being nailed to the cross, he endured more pain, leaving him in his body, maybe I should say it that way, leaving his body disfigured and executing throughout the whole ordeal pain. Pain in his ankles, pain in his groin, pain in his arms, pain all the way around, and then ultimately, after his death, he was pierced. Isaiah 52:14 and Matthew chapter 27, verses 27 through 31. And I encourage you to read these scriptures on what Jesus endured, just to get an idea how much pain he went through for you and I. The next thing he suffered was emotionally. Emotionally, Jesus faced isolation. He was all alone. And betrayal. And all his disciples fled and betrayed him. I don't know the man, was often their words. And that must have been difficult. People that he loved, people he spent 3.5 years teaching, or more or less, just around that amount of time, and they all betrayed him. They all left him. He also endured, while he was on the cross, and before he was even on the cross, mockery and humiliation from the crowds, experiencing the deep sorrows of being rejected and abandoned by humanity. He was there doing what we needed to be able to be with God for eternity. And he was there doing what was needed so that we could be with him for eternity. And yet, he was abandoned. Matthew 26, verse 56, and Isaiah 53:3. And then he suffered spiritually. Spiritually, Jesus bore the weight of the sins of the world, becoming sin for humanity. In 2 Corinthians 5:21 and 1 John chapter 2, verse 2, shares these thoughts. This separation from God, too, was something he experienced. It was a part of his abandonment in his mind, because he did cry out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" But he also was spiritually suffering from that, because he just didn't want to have to go through this all alone, and he thought God would be there with him. Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, if you'd like to read that. But this chapter and verse in Matthew reflects a immense spiritual burden he carried to satisfy divine justice and provide salvation for all of mankind. Isaiah 53 describes the Messiah being pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities, and helping to bring peace between us and God and healing to others who believed. Theological significance of all this is that Jesus' suffering was not a random, but a part of God's redemptive plan. It demonstrates the seriousness of sin, the cruelty of humanity, and the ultimate triumph over sin and death. His obedience in the face of suffering exemplifies his love for humanity and his role as the ultimate sacrificial lamb. Through his suffering and through his death, salvation and reconciliation with God are made available to all, every one of us who will accept it, believe it, and obey him. And so, in summary, I just want to say this. Jesus suffered a lot for you and me. He suffered a lot for all of mankind, even those who didn't even care. The suffering of Jesus encompassed physical torment, emotional anguish, and spiritual burden, all endured on his part voluntarily to accomplish humanity's redemption and to obey what God has asked him to do. Think about that as you walk for him, all that he did to make it such that we could be with him. Thank you.